Good to see you all this morning. Wondering if we have any newcomers in the house. I think we might toward the back there. Welcome. Good to have you here today. Barbara will bring you a little gift bag with some information about the church to take home with you. But make yourself at home. Good to have you here today. And also, there's back there on that back table, Barbara, there's some little busy books for kids. I think they're right on the top back there. Barbara, you know what they look like if Barbara has trouble finding them. It's something to do. We don't have our Sunday school program going yet, but we have some little busy books for kids just to kind of have a little fun with during the service. And feel free to walk around and make yourself at home. Sometimes it can be hard to sit a long time, even for us grown-ups. Would you agree? Amen. Amen. All right. Well, good to have you all here today. You all know the ropes. There are masks available on the back table. Help yourself to one at any time if you need one, and sanitizer. Let's just say good morning again to everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good to have you here. Good to have Linda and Joel here this morning. Let's thank them for joining us as our musicians today. We are blessed. We are blessed. Halloween is coming up. I'm already, a lot of people are talking about it, especially with those with kids and grandkids. I just stumbled on this little story I thought was cute. A little 6-year-old was excited about his Halloween costume. And he said, I'm going to be the Pope. And his mother said, well, you know, the Pope is Catholic. I don't think you can do that. We're Lutheran. And he said, is Dracula Lutheran? Oh, that was cute. All right. Well, let's begin to think about going into prayer. We're very inclusive in our prayers in unity, always including ourselves, our loved ones, our community, our country, our world, our planet. And so as we begin to think about who and what we might want to lift up in prayer this morning, Linda and Joel will do a prayer song called I and the Father Are One. We are all deeply connected to that power and presence, that unfailing love that is with us always, that wisdom that guides us by day and by night. We know this truth for all those who are healing, all those in need of encouragement or support, renewing life, comforting hope is flowing through each one. Opportunities are arising. Fresh beginnings are unfolding. The renewing life of God is with each one. Whatever our circumstances, whatever challenges we might be facing, God is with us in the midst of them. God is where we draw our strength, our steadying peace, our abiding love. We know this truth for each one in our sanctuary this morning, for all those listening in online. We know it for living beings everywhere across the globe, each one of us in deep touch with the power and presence of God within us. We affirm this truth deeply this morning, and we give thanks for it, knowing it is so. And so it is. Amen. All right, we're going to have another song by Ed and Joel, something called Higher Ground by Charles Gabriel.
I'm pressing on the upward way. New heights I'm gaining every day. Still praying as I'm onward bound. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher My heart has no desire to stay where doubts arise and fears dismay. Though some may dwell where these abound, my prayer, my aim is higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. I want to scale the utmost height and catch a dream of glory bright, but still I'll pray till heaven I've found. Lord, lead me on to higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground.
Yeah.
Something a little different.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, guys. You can come on down and sit and relax for a little bit. All right. Talking about the idea of precarity today. That's kind kind of a new word for me I've been running into lately. We've heard the word precarious, and it's kind of related to that. Precarity, it's kind of another word for uncertainty, feeling of vulnerability. Things are precarious. That's a state or a feeling of precarity. I guess it's not surprising. We've been feeling a lot of feelings like that in recent days, and so more words for it are emerging as we come to grips with that experience. How do we deal with precarity? It's something we talk a lot about, really, in spiritual circles. What are our resources? What works to help us through challenging, uncertain times of radical precarity? So as I've been kind of looking into some literature about that lately and drawing upon it, we've had a lot of unexpected challenges in the last year or two, a lot of challenges with loss, with illness, with financial struggles for some people, a lot of things that have caused a kind of a sense of precarity. So what have we discovered that works for us or helps us in dealing with that? Or what have we discovered doesn't help? Because those are good things to kind of take note of as well. So I've been really enjoying the work, watching some interviews. I read a recent book by a woman named Kate Bowler. I think I mentioned her last week as well. She's a Christian history professor at Duke Divinity School. She's the mother of a toddler. And she also had the unusual and challenging experience of being diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer at only 35, and in and out of a lot of treatment for that. Fortunately, in remission now from that, but had something like 9 surgeries, abdominal surgeries, and so on. So her one of her most recent books was really about a memoir about the experience of that and how religion sometimes is not helpful, or how people interpret religion in helping people deal with significant radical precarity times like that, when you're ill and you don't know what's going on. She didn't even know if she was going to survive it, for quite a while during that process. So she started with an op-ed piece she wrote for the New York Times Magazine, I think, about what she was going through and some of the not very, how she was dealing with it. And she said she made the mistake of putting her email address at the bottom. And she started hearing from thousands of people about, starting out somewhat sympathetic with her diagnosis, her cancer diagnosis, but immediately wanting to go to reasons why she was ill. Lots of reasons why she was ill, and offers to help her research her background to see what kind of sin might be back there that would have caused this diagnosis. Sins in this lifetime. Some people suggested sins in prior lifetimes. A lack of faith, not enough faith, all kinds of things like that. She received a barrage of these kinds of things. Sometimes people suggested she was given it as a blessing to teach her important lessons going forward. Some people suggested it was a blessing to her because she was going to learn important lessons to share with us. So it's really all about us. All kinds of things out of left field she was experiencing. So she has, really is opening a lot of people's eyes, I think, to the idea that sometimes the religious approaches are kind of misused in a way, that people kind of use it to judge others because they're uncomfortable with it. It's a way of kind of keeping it from, well, it's not my experience, it's yours because of what you've done. I hate to say it, but we see a rendition of this in Unity. Those of you who've been in Unity a long time, we see a rendition of this in Unity, usually with a kind of an overemphasis on the mental side of things. We believe strongly in Unity, of course, that our thoughts are creative. Divine mind flows through us. Our thoughts are creative and they influence our experience. But we can go too far with that sometimes, especially with an emphasis on thinking positively, positive thought, so that sometimes there's a suggestion that if you have a problem in your life, you haven't been thinking properly. Anyone ever hear that idea?
Yes.
Yes. It's not uncommon, and it can be very, very wounding. And it's really a reduction. It's like it's going too far with this idea. Yes, our thoughts are creative, but it doesn't mean we call all the shots in our lives and everyone else's lives, and that anything bad that happens is our own fault. or anything bad that happens to somebody else is their fault because of thinking improperly. I think it's really refreshing with the work Kate Buller is doing and kind of bringing this out. This is not helpful. This is injurious. And we probably all had some experience of that. I was remembering years ago, and I've probably shared stories like this with you before, but I was going through a really tough time financially. I guess I was maybe early 30s, something like that, and going to a Unity church, not this one. And I was volunteering a lot at the church there, tithing a lot of my time, serving on committees, things like that. But I didn't have any money at the time, so I tithed very little in terms of cash. And I remember distinctly the feeling of a church. I'd kind of make sure nobody was watching, and I'd slip $1 or $2 into one of those love offering envelopes, right? I'm sure many people have done that down through the history of church work. But one time, and it was a tough time, and I was working all the time, just not quite making ends meet yet. And I remember in the ladies' restroom, right around that time, I shared with someone my challenges I was going through financially, and the response I got was, well, someone needs a little work on their prosperity consciousness. So in addition to having the financial struggles, I was shamed for having the financial struggles. It's an additional burden on top. Very disappointing, very wounding. And it's not uncommon. We just do this. I think it's a way of distancing ourselves from the same kinds of problems, to kind of blame people's problems on themselves. And of course we do this to ourselves. We do this kind of same whammy on ourselves. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with somebody in a kind of a counsel situation, and one of the first questions is, what have I done to bring this on myself? If it's a health situation or some other situation, a relationship falling apart, whatever it might be, something challenging happened, how have I brought this on myself? We really need to expunge some of this because it isolates us. It isolates us unnecessarily when we're going through a tough time, when we really need to come closer and support one another better. Kate Buller explained it too. Like she went from almost overnight when she got that diagnosis. She went from being, just a regular person like the rest to like this problem that needs to be solved and figured out. Like this sheet of plexiglass dropped between her and everybody else. We need to remove those sheets of plexiglass and work with our own involvement with that if there are ways in which we are doing that kind of judging and isolating, and that's divisive. So how do we deal with radical precarity in these challenging times in an authentic way? And the first one is several things that came to mind after reading Kate Buller's book and things that she mentioned. The first one and the biggest one is Jesus' constant saying, do not judge. Do not judge. We have to resist that tendency to judge ourselves when we have challenges or others when they have challenges, because we do not know. And it happens very, very often. Sometimes just culturally, we're not taught how to talk about challenges or how to support one another. We're not taught very well how to do that. And that's why Kate Buller wound up getting so many expressions from people like, everything happens for a reason. And of course her husband was, I look forward to hearing that reason. Why my wife has stage 4 colon cancer at 35 and we have a 2-year-old who might be without her. What possible reason could that be? Now, people don't have ill intentions when they say things like that. They probably heard that. It's like we get it from culture, and it's not very helpful. So we have to kind of don't judge and avoid any of these platitudes that don't serve us. And that means accepting a certain amount of precarity. We don't know what to say. These are tough times. Nobody knows what to say. And we have to kind of surrender a little bit to that precarity. And Kate Buller has really helpful in her book. She has a couple appendices on things never to say. Never say these things. And she explains why. And then she has an appendix, it's just 2 pages. And then she has an appendix of things to say. Things to say like, can I bring you a meal? I'd love to drop off a meal this week. I'll email you about it. Now that's something everybody likes. Gifts. Take people gifts when they're going through a rough time. I remember last year, was it last year I had the knee replacement surgery? got lots of food cards from people. It was wonderful, just wonderful to get food cards. It's like that relieves a pressure on figuring out meals, because you can't think that way when you're going through a tough time. I got fruit, I got flowers, those kinds of things are very helpful. So I brought in a copy of those appendix, things never to say and things to try. They're on a back table, and for you folks online, Joe's going to put up a link so that you can go to that on our web page. So do not judge is the big one. We don't know the reason for others' sufferings, and we need to remind ourselves of that often. We don't know the reason for our own, and we have to throw out this idea that there's some kind of a definitive merit system going on, that good people won't have challenges, that only bad people or people who have thought wrongly or something will have challenges. Because in fact, that isn't true. All kinds of people have challenges. I know people can find pretty much anything in the Bible. It's such a vast collection of texts. But one of the things that always struck me about it was that there are people just like us with all kinds of flaws and foibles and mistakes, and it never got in the way of them experiencing blessings in their lives. There was no definitive, kind of merit system or metric that only good people were rewarded and only bad people had troubles. Lots of bad people were blessed in lots of ways. There's no comparison, nothing that made sense in that regard. I was thinking, Moses, he was a murderer on the run, right? He killed an Egyptian and was on the run, and he has an experience of God in a burning bush, and is led in kind of moves on into a more joyous path in life, a freer path. Jacob, same thing. He was a thief. He stole his brother's an inheritance. Didn't stop him from being blessed. So good people can have challenges. Bad people who have done bad things, can be richly blessed. There's no metric about it. So we have to kind of stop our judgments about that. Like, we know why certain people have challenges, why we have challenges, or why some people should and shouldn't. So throw out the judgment. Throw out this sense that there's a merit system that applies to all of us. Third one, Kate Bowler mentions a lot, is make sure you stay in connection with nature. In connection with nature, we all feel that isolation goes away. We're all a part of nature, and we heal better. We deal with precarity better when we feel our connection with nature in any way you can. I love a study I read about several months ago, about some study done in hospitals, that people healed better if they had a tree outside their window to look at. Such a small thing, but so deeply nourishing, because we know at depth that we are one with nature, and it's deeply nourishing to tend to that and to feel that connection. Connect with others who have come through tough situations and the wisdom they've gained going through that. We're here to share that with one another, like Kate Bowler's book that I'm soaking up right now. Who are your big teachers in your life? Who have had lessons for you? Especially people who have gone through challenges themselves. Eckhart Tolle, crippling depression before he found some kind of a focus for his work and his energy. Byron Katie, also crippling depression, suicidal in her background. Now she does healing work with lots of people. Pema Chodron is a big one for me. Brother David Stendhal Rast, who went through Nazi takeover in his Austria. He had tough times. We can learn a lot from one another, sharing authentically about the rough times we've been through, those times of radical precarity, and what we called upon to steady us. Draw on the support of your community, whenever you can. And sometimes it's when you're going through a tough time that you find out how supportive your community is. Like the story I told you about my prosperity challenges in the past, that community wasn't supporting me very well at that time. That's important, when it's there. Silent Unity's always had this phrase, what one heart cannot bear alone, many hearts can bear together. It's a 24-hour prayer service in Unity. It's true, there's a power and an energy that comes from our communities. If any of you have meditated in a group, you might have experienced that. There's more of a flow you can go with somehow that we create together. When we work together, we can get more done. When we pray together, we can feel more energy flowing. So when it's there, it's a wonderful grace. When it's not there, it's very hurtful because we expect more from our communities, and especially our spiritual communities. Maybe because of my own experience, sometimes feeling like that was a little lacking. I was so grateful with some of our members, like our dear Kim, who passed in June. She felt a lot of support from this church and always spoke about that. She had a wonderful team of friends that were in and out, bringing meals or gifts or chocolates or Doritos or whatever the heck she wanted, in and out of the house, and dropping off all kinds of meals and so on, and just visiting with her, just sitting with her. That doesn't make the radical precarity go away, but it infuses the situation with love. And everything becomes more manageable with love. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Everything becomes more manageable with love in the house. And that was what was going on there. And the good news is love is always near. And that's really the last point on how to deal with these times of radical precarity and with honesty and wisdom, is that we need to stay alert for the presence of God with us, for the love of God with us, which is always near and always possible, whatever the challenges are. Kate Bowler talked about when she was going through the worst of the cancer treatment, all the chemo and the surgeries and everything. Even during the worst times of it, she had this feeling of love, almost overwhelming feeling of love with her and around her in that time. And she actually almost kind of worried about would she be able to keep that as she, when she started getting better. She thought, well, this must be what people feel as they're preparing to die, this sense of love, of loving presence with them. But she didn't die, and she got better. And that feeling did fade as she got more involved in daily life again. That overwhelming feeling of love's presence with her began to fade. But she said it left an imprint. It left an imprint with her, and that awareness that loving presence is with us, and even in the worst of times. So that's something to really hold on to and remember and be alert for. That feeling of the presence of love, of God with us, that's possible in all situations and circumstances. I was remembering how many amazing scriptures there are about that very idea that wherever we are, whatever we've done, whatever our situation, whatever we're facing, God is near. God can be right there with us. Like this wonderful one from Psalm 139. Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your right hand shall hold me. Whatever the circumstances, whatever we've been through, whatever we're facing, the love of God can be right there with us. And that's a powerful thing to remember when we're going through a precarious time, a time of radical precarity. So the final questions I came to, more questions than answers, I guess. Can we be okay with that? Can we be okay with this? Can we loosen our grip on our explanations and our reasons why bad things happen to ourselves, to each other, and just be the presence of love with each other and not isolate or judge, to make ourselves a little more comfortable, being more distant from these hard times? Can we let it be okay? Can we let there be this, I don't know, this vulnerability and this not having answers? And because if we can emerge from a time of radical precarity, like we've been through, to be better channels of loving kindness, to be less judgmental, less divided, less isolated, and better able to be channels of love for ourselves and for one another, that would be a great accomplishment, something that will serve us in good stead going forward. So let's take that into a moment of prayer if we could, and affirm that intention for ourselves, for our loved ones, for one another. That we jettison our judgments, we set aside any analyses or judgments that separate and divide us. That we accept the risks of life and the times of uncertainty And we draw upon that love of God, that power and presence of God that is with us moment by moment to enable us to be strong for ourselves, for one another, to be channels of loving kindness, to infuse our lives and one another's lives with love that makes so many things possible. Thank you, God, for your unfailing presence with us now and always. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, we're going to go right on into another song by Linda and Joel. I think the accordion is coming out on this one, if I'm not mistaken. It's a song by Ruth Pelham called Look to the People.
I think this tune amazingly reinforced some of the themes in Joanne's talk. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Look to the people for music. Hard times coming ahead. We're gonna sing and shout. We're gonna work it all out in the hard times coming ahead. People's music. With the people's music. With the people's music. We can make it. We're gonna look to the people for laughter and the hard times coming ahead. We're gonna sing and shout, we're gonna work it all out in the hard times coming ahead. People's laughter. People's laughter. People's laughter. We can make it. We're gonna look to the people for courage in the hard times coming.